Oh, there's a question come in.
Yeah, that's great. All questions in the Q&A section will be brilliant, and we'll explain how we'll deal with those in a bit. But yeah, please do use that Q&A function if you've got any questions popping into your head as we go along this morning, and we'll try and work through them all.
Oh yeah, I've had a read of that one, so I'll cover that after we've done the video. Oh, I've just had an email come through, I think, from somebody who's struggled to get in. So I'm just going to do that. I'm really sorry to everybody. I completely managed to leave off sending you the link when I did my usual email, but I did send it. Obviously, you've all got it because you're here. But right, I'm just going to quickly go to my emails to allow that person in. A sec.
Fear not, everybody, if you have to leave partway through or your internet suddenly crashes. This is all being recorded and will be sent out to you afterwards via a link for you to view again at your leisure. So if we do encounter any tech problems, then we've got a backup plan. Thank you. So it's 10:30 now. I'll kick off and start here and just do a little bit of an intro. Thank you everybody for joining this morning. My name is Bethan. I'm a trust fundraiser and digital manager at ERIC, the Children's Bowel and Bladder Charity. As I said, we're based down in Bristol, but we're a UK-wide charity helping families whose children have got any kind of bowel or bladder condition, really, all the way through from potty training to teenagers with bedwetting. We support all children up to the age of 19 with any bowel or bladder problems that they may have. And of course, potty training is the beginning of good bowel and bladder health. So we are here to help you get it right from the outset. Potty training is typically one of those kind of milestone areas where you might start to spot things cropping up, little red flags around your child's bowel or bladder health. So as well as actually going through the potty training process and getting them out of nappies, it's the best time really to make sure you're getting the basics in there, and understanding a bit more about what to look out for as your child sort of continues to grow and get older, because so many of these bowel and bladder conditions, if you get in there quick and treat them, you can really save yourself a lot of problems further down the line before they become chronic or entrenched. So today, it's our fourth and final webinar session. We've gone through the basics of potty training, getting ready, getting started. And now today we're looking at some troubleshooting areas, regression and nighttime dryness. I'm going to crack just one more. This, as ever, this event has been made possible by funding we've received from an organisation called the Novia Foundation, who are based in Bath. We couldn't do this without their financial support today, so we thank them. We are a charity, and so we rely on donations like that to help make our services possible. I'm going to pass on to my colleague Alina, and then without further ado, who's going to explain a bit more about the format today, and then we'll crack on with our video. Hi, Alina.
Thank you, Bethan. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to have you with us again today, and I just wanted to say how much I've enjoyed doing these. I really hope you've enjoyed either joining us live or watching them afterwards on YouTube. I can see, I think somebody's put in the questions, how long will they be available for? And it's brilliant to get the feedback. So any feedback you've got is fantastic. We're going to be sending out a survey. It's only a few questions, so it shouldn't take too long, but it's just going to be so useful for us to get that feedback from you, because this is the kind of thing that we hope to be able to do more of in the future. So any comments you've got are brilliant, and we will be looking at how long things stay up on YouTube. So as Bethan said, we're going to be covering regression, troubleshooting, and talking about nighttime dryness. Just wanted to say, for anybody, hopefully it's all going okay at the moment, but if you do hit a bit of a problem, please do get in touch with us, because what I can do, you've got my email, I'll be able to signpost you to the relevant places on our website that can give help. You know, there's lots of different resources. And if you're still really struggling, then of course there's our helpline as well that you can get in touch with. But we're not sort of saying you've had your 4 weeks and that's it done. You know, Eric is here. We've got a fantastic amount of resources, and we really want to be able to help as much as possible. So do keep in touch, and we will do our best to get you through to the right channels of support. I think that's about it, really, isn't it? We've got a slightly longer video, haven't we, this week? I seem to ramble on and on. So it's about 17 minutes, I think. So we'll start that, and then we'll come back to do the Q&A, and Bethan will say a little bit more about the survey. But yeah, if you want to ask questions as we're going through, do use the Q&A function for that.
Okay, before I share my screen, Alina, I'm going to ask you to turn your video off, and I'm going to do the same, and hopefully in a few minutes, couple of seconds, the YouTube video will appear. So bear with us all, folks. Fourth and final session where we're talking about potty training. Today we're going to look at some troubleshooting, really. What happens when you think you've done everything right, you've laid the groundwork, and you're still having problems. So a bit of troubleshooting, looking at some issues around regression. Sometimes you might have a child that's been potty trained quite successfully for a while, and then it all starts to go wrong again. And then we'll also start answering some questions around when to move on, or when to start thinking about nighttime dryness, or stopping using nappies at nighttime. Just to kick off then, Alina, we talked about troubleshooting and problems. I know one of the big thing that comes up is around poo, isn't it? Poo can be quite problematic when you're potty training.
So something that we know is very common, because we get quite a lot of calls to our helpline about it, is children that seem to get the hang of weeing absolutely fine, but for some reason they aren't the same with pooing, and they refuse to do a poo anywhere other than their nappy, or they just hold on to it. The actual pushing out of the poo into the nappy just completely scares them, terrifies them. It can be really stressful when this happens, because you can have a child that can explain to you, show all the signs of being ready for potty training, and they know what they need to do. And when you say to them, don't hold on to your poo, it's going to hurt your bottom. No, mummy, I won't. But the actual doing of it is just too tricky for them. Why we think this happens potentially is because, if you imagine, actually pushing out a poo is a much more active process, something we have to get more involved with, rather than just sort of sitting and relaxing and letting go of a wee. So we think it could be partly that, but also poo is smelly by nature of it being poo. It's the body's waste product. Some children can get frightened that it might splash, and the splash is going to make them wet, and actually get scared that it is going to hurt them, because we're not necessarily saying a child needs to be constipated for this to happen, but it might just be that actually they've gone a bit of a longer gap between poos, and it did hurt them a little bit. So what do we do when something scares us and hurts us? Well, we avoid doing that thing again, don't we? But in a young child's mind, they don't understand that actually that poo really does have to keep coming out, because the longer you hold on to it, the more trouble you're going to get your bottom into. So it is very, very common, but there is a way through it. And it's sort of counterintuitive, really, to what all the stuff we've been saying about consistency and going cold turkey on nappies. It is far better to allow a child to have a nappy back on to do a poo, or a pair of pants, if that's where they're comfortable doing it. Okay, that nappy for these children is their sort of security and their comfort. It's what they've been used to using. And for most of these children, you find that actually, if you let them have the nappy back on, they will happily do their poo. And then it's a case of moving them away from that. So you can still keep going with potty training, because the minute they've done the poo, what we would encourage is you go back in the toilet area if they've not done it in there, and get them to tip it in the toilet with you and flush it away, all those sorts of things. And also, just to say, it isn't just poo, it's more likely that it's going to be poo, but some children get really nervous of letting go of a wee, particularly children when maybe they're going somewhere else during the day, like to preschool or to a childminder. they don't want to use a different toilet, or they just feel nervous going to the loo away from home. So you can get kids sort of holding on to their wee for hours and hours and hours, and it's something that parents get really worried about. I think the main thing to know is actually it's not going to cause your child long-term bladder or bowel damage, this holding on to the wee or the poo for these periods, but it is something you want to try and nip in the bud.
You know, when you think about us as adults, a lot of us don't like going to the toilet outside the home, do we? So you can kind of understand why a child might get anxious around a toilet at nursery or out in a shop or something. Do you recommend trying to get access to the nursery to see what the toilets are like there? Or I know it's difficult at the moment, but
yeah, that can be really helpful. And what we would say is once you're allowed to go into a nursery again, is to go in with your child so they can point out to you, or just talk to them about it. Just say, is the flush a bit different, or is there a hand dryer you don't like? Because or the child might not really even have thought of that until you've asked them, or they might just say, well, no, I'm just a bit too scared to ask. So it's about having open communication with them and with the nursery.
I mentioned at the beginning of this about that kind of situation where you actually you've gone through potty training and you think you've sort of nailed it and it's gone quite well, but you then might get these points in time, mightn't you? And it might be a few weeks later or even a few months after you think you've cracked potty training that all of a sudden the accidents start to come back again, and you feel like maybe you're going backwards a bit. It's called regression, isn't it? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, potty training regression, it can come on as a complete surprise for people. That child can be reliably clean and dry, as you just said, for maybe weeks or months, and then for some reason it's as if they've almost forgotten what they were supposed to be doing. And I think it's parents shouldn't panic, but there's some key things you need to do. You just need to check that an underlying issue like constipation hasn't crept in, or that your child hasn't got a urinary tract infection, because both of those things can cause wee and poo accidents. So again, I would point people in the direction of the ERIC website, have a look at our daytime wetting and our constipation pages just to check. So just make sure you rule out any kind of physical cause for it. Then you're looking at kind of the environment around the child. Sometimes this happens because children have a change in their routine. So it may be that actually they start at preschool, or they're going up to a different room at the nursery, and the routine is different, and it just throws them off kilter. And it doesn't take much for it's a bit like the domino effect. Everything just goes out of the window, because children don't have accidents on purpose because they're being lazy or naughty. Yes, they can be a bit frustrating and not go when you ask them to, but it's very rare that children would deliberately wee and poo just to wind us up, however much it might feel like that sometimes. But what we do know is once they've started having accidents and they don't know why it happens and they don't really know what they can do about it, they will often just clam up and go into denial. So you can say to them, you've had an accident, haven't you? You've wet your pants, and because their pants are just sodden. No, I haven't. And it is all part of this sort of stress response, I think, of desperately trying to explain it away in some other way. And some kids they regress because they just sort of forget. I think you can have quite a lot of excitement and fuss about potty training. You've done your reward chart and you've done all your cheering and all that, but life has to go on, doesn't it? You can't kind of spend half an hour every morning cheering Mr. Pooh because Mr. Pooh's come to play with his friends in a swimming pool and all that. But some children, without the sort of some kind of motivation, they just sort of lose their way with it. Often regression happens when they get tired, or something they're excited about, like a new arrival in the family, new baby, new puppy. They quite fancy being a bit like a baby again. So
what do you do then? Do you have to go back to the start and start all over again, or what?
Yeah, I think you sort of meet them where they are, in terms of and essentially just go back to the basics and do. If they got to the point where they were independently going off but they stopped, well, you probably have to do a halfway street of sometimes allowing them to do that, but other times reminding them, and just kind of get them back on track. Really look into their drinking again. Are they still drinking plenty? All the kind of the things that we've talked about, really getting them involved with cleaning themselves up. put the reward chart back in, make that for just telling you they've had an accident if things have really gone awry, and you need to just find something to engage them with. But yeah, I think the main thing to reassure parents with, obviously constipation or a urinary tract infection, you need to go to the doctor to get it sorted out. But potty training regression in itself is incredibly common, and usually it isn't due to any underlying reason. It's just for those, you've got 3-4-year-old, 2-3-4-year-old who they've learned this big thing and they hadn't quite realised it was here to stay now. It's really from 5 onwards, if children are still having accidents, that's when more sort of medical investigations can happen. But yeah, so it's part of it, really.
You sort of touched on it. It can be very frustrating, can't it, when this happens, and very stressful. Do you have any kind of management techniques to help try and take the stress out of that situation a bit? Because I mean, it can really feel like it's pushing your buttons, can't it?
Yeah.
When this starts to happen,
Yeah.
and you just need to keep calm, don't you?
Yeah, it's not always that easy though, is it really? And there's a lot of quite a lot of competitive parenting as well, I think happens. I remember going to a toddler group and looking around thinking, golly, all the others are potty trained by now, my son still hadn't. Well, he got it, he walked really early, he just took longer to potty train. So children, they learn at different rates, and our parenting styles are all different. But I think, yeah, trying to stay calm, trying not to think that your child's doing it on purpose. I'm trying to avoid getting into a battle of wills with them as well, because children love attention, don't they? And even if they're getting negative attention for something to do with accidents on the floor or something like that, it can just seem like a bit of a fun game to them. So I think just trying to stay as calm as possible, have that break, just give yourselves a break and just go back if you really think that actually things aren't going well and they're just not getting it. But with true regression, usually it really doesn't take much to get kids back on track.
Moving on then to the last area we wanted to cover in this series, and that was about thinking about nighttime dryness.
Nighttime dryness isn't really the same as potty training. You can't really train a child to be dry at night. Some children will, a few of them will go on to be bedwetters until they're older, and that's usually due to physical reasons. So once your child has become reliably clean and dry in the day, and they've been that way for a couple of months, that could be the time to start thinking about taking away nighttime nappies or pull-ups. You may also have found that you've had perhaps a couple of mornings where they've woken up dry or just a bit drier, that pull-up was just a bit lighter. So what you can do is, first thing is explain to your child what's going to be happening. So again, it all goes back to that kind of giving them fair warning, because again, it's something they've got to learn to be doing. So yeah, let's let them know that you're going to have a trial without nappies or pull-ups. Get the bed really well protected. If lots of children at that age still have a milky drink close to bedtime, bring that forward. Have the milky drink with their tea, because if they have it just before they go to bed, they're going to bed with a nice full up bladder full of a liquid that we know will make them make even more wee in that milk. So just they can still have a bit of water before they go to bed, but just try to avoid big drinks. Get them to do a wee before they get into bed. Leave a potty in the room as well. Try to make it as easy as possible for them with a night light. So you're explaining, if you wake up in the night and you have that feeling of needing to do a wee, just pop out on your potty, or give mum or dad a shout, and if they need help, you can get them out to the toilet. Night light in the room, and also just the sleeping arrangements. If they're sharing a room with a sibling and they're in bunks, just move the child that you're trying to help get dry at night down into the bottom bunk, because you don't want any further obstacles in the way. If they've got to climb down 3 steps, I think any of us, if we knew we were going to bed in a nice nappy and you're all cozy in bed, it's easier just to think, well, I'll just do a wee in here.
So you said though that nighttime dryness isn't to do with training. What is it then that sort of makes your child be ready at nighttime for them to stop physically going for a wee in the middle of the night?
Yes, it's to do with the hormones in our body, essentially. So nighttime dryness is the final stage of continence that we achieve. And what needs to be happening is either that you have children that might still keep making daytime amounts of wee whilst they're sleeping, but they wake up and they need to go, they know they need to go, or their body, the hormone that they're releasing, it's called vasopressin, you're releasing enough of it that it slows down your urine production as you're sleeping. So it means you can get through the night without your bladder getting so full it needs to be emptied. And that hormone kicks in for children at all different points. And nobody can kind of say when, but for most children, post-potty training as they're sort of heading towards the age of 5, and that's why bedwetting under the age of 5, it isn't even considered bedwetting, it's just a completely normal part of childhood up to that age. But from 5, it can be treated. Up to the age of 5, it's chances are it's just their body just not quite ready to do it, and also it's really hard for them to be able to rouse from sleep to that full bladder signal to get to the toilet. But some children will never get dry if they're always in a nappy. We know, just like the accidents help children in the daytime learn, for some kids, waking up in a wet bed is the thing that triggers their brain to think, actually I need to wake up at that point, or I can just sleep through and not release my wee because I need to wait until the morning. So bedwetting is quite complex, quite a lot of different things to it. I don't, it would be bamboozling to go through it all now, but I think the main thing is that there's some prep work that you can do, talking to that child about, again, what I said, what's expected of them, and just having a trial without the nappies. But if you just have a run of wet nights and you've taken that nappy off, it's fine, they're not ready yet, just go back into the nappies. Better to do that rather than chop and change, sort of have one night in, one night off. And that's going to be quite a mixed message, quite confusing for kids. So
in theory, it sounds like you could then have, like, your child becomes dry during the day, say at 18 months, very early, but it could be a couple of years before they then are ready to stop wearing nappies at night time.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. And it's that key thing, because they're ready, it's their body, it's not, bedwetting happens outside of our conscious control, it's when we're asleep. So there's a lot of it is the actual physical development of a child's body that needs to be happening.
For children that are nervous of pooing, let them continue to use their nappy to avoid getting into a cycle of withholding. If the accidents start to creep in after your child has been potty trained for a while, check for constipation and UTIs. Changes in a child's environment, like a new sibling, pet, or starting nursery, may have an impact. Don't panic, regression is common, and by going back to the basics, you should be able to get back on track. Nighttime dryness does not automatically follow on day after daytime dryness and is not considered a medical problem until the age of 5. Great. Okay, well, thanks very much for running through that, Alina. We're going to head back to our live selves now for a Q&A for everybody who's dialed into this. So thanks for watching, and we'll speak to you very shortly. Oh,
You back?
hang on. Sorry, I've got too much going on my laptop. Here I am. Right. Okay. Can you hear me, Alina? Have I got my speaker?
Yeah. No, you're on.
Okay, great. Okay. So we've run through a few things there, and I'm just going to kick off first of all with a couple of questions that we got sent in from people just beforehand. And the first one we had was a question about products and sort of practical tips for keeping beds dry when you're moving on to sort of trying nighttime arrangements. What can you tell us about that, Alina?
There are lots, and we have an Eric shop. I don't know if many of the people watching this will know that our Eric shop sells lots of different things, bedwetting alarms for those that might need it when their children are older, hopefully not, but it's all there. But anything bought from us supports our work. As a charity, we're not for profit. So I had a quick check actually of what we sell, because I know it can vary quite a bit depending on stock and things like that, but we do have a really good range. If you just go to the Eric shop and to bedding protection, you can get things like duvet covers, so an actual case, a waterproof case that the duvet goes into. And I had a chat with Jane, who's our the main person who works in our shop. She's very knowledgeable, she's always happy to speak to anybody. I'll put a link to Jane's contact details in the email I send out about products before people buy them. And I think gone are the days of those horrible rubber sheets that we might remember from our childhood, depending on how old you are, that would just make you sweat and crinkle and make a noise. There's some really nice designs. There's a company called Hippie Chick, we stock their stuff. They do a duvet protector thing. There's bed protectors, a company called Brolly Sheets, who do a sort of a top layer sheet that goes over all of the other bedding, and that's really good at absorbing, you know, a good amount of wee as well. These products have really come on leaps and bounds. So there's lots of different things out there. One of the other tips that I didn't mention in the video, some people double make the bed, so that if that child has an accident, when you first take the nappy off, and hopefully it's only just soaked through the top layer of what they're sleeping in, then in the middle of the night when you're all tired, it's less tiring and less work for you, because you can just whip off the top sheet. So if you've got a body sheet, you just whip that off and then they can just go back to sleep. So yeah, there's lots of things there, but I will put the link in the email that I send.
Okay. My daughter is dry at night but isn't in the day. Is this normal?
Yeah, I think we possibly covered that last week, but yes, I mean, so that is the case of some children, that they, and it goes back to what I was explaining in the video about the hormone vasopressin.
Oh, sorry, Alina, sorry, I'm not sure if I asked that the wrong way around. My daughter is dry at night. Isn't in the day. Sorry.
That's fine. Yeah, so that child has got dry at night before they've become reliably dry in the day. Yeah, and that would suggest that she has good bladder control at night, obviously, and the hormone is working for her, that she's able, her nighttime urine production is such that she can go through the night and not wake up and need to do a wee, or she's not letting it out into the nappy. So I think it's just following all the same principles that we've talked about for potty training, really, and in keeping that going to help her at night, because things like making sure she's drinking plenty right through the day. Some families mistakenly think that to help your child not wet the bed, you should restrict how much they drink during the day, and it's completely the reverse. They need to be drinking their 6 to 8 water-based drinks throughout the day. I think it's about a litre for children under 5, and just watch out for drinks that we know can irritate their bladders, particularly close to bedtime. So that's hot chocolate, anything with caffeine in, that kind of thing. So so for that little girl, brilliant. She's dry in the day. She's going to get there dry at night. I'm doing it now, and hopefully she'll get dry in the day soon as well.
Okay, next question sort of follows on from that, really. Not sure if my boy wakes at 3 o'clock in the morning. Ouch, for a wee every day. That's tough.
I have one of those.
If you're waking up at the same time as well. I'm pleased he's not having accidents, but I'm knackered. Yes. How can I help him to get through to the morning? He doesn't have any drinks before bed and always goes for a wee before sleep.
Oh, well, that's brilliant that you're following those good principles. That wee before bed, I imagine if you've watched the rest of this series, hopefully you're doing this, but get him to do a sitting down wee, because that will encourage him to fully empty his bladder. We actually, when parents call our helpline about this, suggest doing what's called a double void. So with children, you get them to do a wee, perhaps, as part of their brushing their teeth, that bit of bedtime. And then if you've done a nighttime story, just get him to then, it's good practice as well, just get out of bed and do a final wee, just to really, really make sure that his bladder is fully emptied. The other thing I would suggest, if you've not done it already, is to put a potty and a nightlight in the room. Make sure that his sleeping arrangement is conducive to him being able to easily get out. And in an ideal world, it's, in a way, he's doing brilliantly in that he's waking up to that full bladder signal. The next step, particularly for you as a parent, not getting so tired, is for him to be able to just independently get out and do that wee. But I think, little children, they're notorious, aren't they, for suddenly needing something desperate in the middle of the night. I think it's about really encouraging him, sort of giving him as many things as you can in that room to help him, and explain to him that that's what that potty's there for. You don't need mummy to help you do that week, because you're a big boy, aren't you? You can get out and use your nightlight and go to the loo. So I think that's the thing to keep going with, making sure that he's fully emptied his bladder and that you've given him the things in the room.
Okay, next question. Hi, I've got 4-year-old twin girls. One of my twin girls, who was doing both the wee and poo on the toilet, now waits until she has a pull-up on at night to do a poo. If you ask her where you go for a poo, she will say on the toilet. How do I go about getting her back to doing a poo on the toilet? Also, they're both still wet at night.
Okay, well, let's do the pooing in the nappy, the pull-up first, then we'll do the nighttime thing. Yeah, so that's why we wanted to sort of say so much really about children who prefer to poo in a nappy, because we just get so many calls to our helpline about it. I'm not saying that to make people think, oh, well, they don't think it's that big a deal. I know myself, I think I've talked already about how my daughter had this issue, and it is incredibly stressful, and when you're in it, it feels horrible, but it is incredibly common. So I think what we need to do is just with your daughter, use the poo chart. I'll just put again the link in, just to track how often she's doing a poo, because you really want to make sure that if she is constipated, that you are able to speak to your GP and talk to them about possibly giving her some laxatives, just to avoid, because what she's doing by waiting till the end of the day is all of the rest of the day, all of those hours preceding bedtime, she is holding on to her poo because she's waiting to be given the thing that she feels comfortable where she wants to do it. Okay, so I would do that. I would also simply just offer her a pull-up at other points in the day. It's fine, you're potty training her, so you don't need to go back to nappies or pull-ups throughout the day. You just simply need to explain to her, yeah, it's perfectly natural. Lots of people get worried about doing their poo, and I understand you feel more comfortable doing it in a pull-up. Well, that's great, because we want it. That's fine. We want to see poo coming out. You don't want to hold on to poo. So every time that your other twin daughter beeps sitting on a potty, needing to do a poo, and just following the prime pooing times, explain to her the pull-ups are kept in the toilet area. Just ask me, you can have that pull-up on to go, and then that will avoid her then waiting right till bedtime. So that will avoid hopefully her getting any worsened constipation or it creeping in. And then you can follow children who will only poo in a nappy, that document that I sent out, to move her on to the next stage. Okay. So they're both still wet at night. Yeah, I think
just to remind you, they're 4. They're 4.
Oh, they're 4. Okay, right. Yeah. So yeah, so they're, as I said in the video, it is perfectly common, in children in terms of their development, that it's not seen as true bedwetting until they're 5. What I would say about the little girl that's got a bit of a phobia, fear with the poo, is that what we know is that if you're going to bed with a full bowel, it's even more likely that your bladder won't be able to hold and go through the night, and it actually is one of the major causes of children's bedwetting. So it's a really, really important thing to make sure that you're trying to get on top of it, and also encouraging children to open their bowels before they go to bed. So I've lost my thread with this now. So so I think the best thing I can do is send out the resources about bedwetting or the nighttime dryness tips, and for you to follow that. But if you still need extra help, just ping me an email back and we'll do what we can.
Okay, next question. How do you encourage a 3-year and 8-month-old child who totally refuses to have anything to do with toileting, denies needing to be changed, and is very uncooperative with nappy changing times? So we get a lot of these kind of questions on the helpline, don't we, Alina? Especially as children are starting to get to age 4, and school is kind of looming maybe in people's thoughts.
So they're much more of their own little person, aren't they, as they age. I would, for this family, I would say, I mean, it's tricky because obviously when we work on the helpline, we're able to really kind of tease out a few more of the details. So the sorts of questions I'd be asking this family is this child, it was a little boy, wasn't it, 3 years 8 months?
It doesn't say child, it just says a child.
Yeah. Is this child resistant to other things that are happening? I don't know, for example, sitting in a trolley at the supermarket or getting in the car, because children, in terms of their development, they go through that sort of kicking back, don't they, tantrums, that kind of thing. Or is it actually mainly just about going to the toilet? Because what that would suggest that it's potentially that he or she have got either their wee has been a bit concentrated and has stung them and hurt a little bit, not necessarily a full-blown UTI. That is something that we would always recommend you can get ruled out by the GP though. Or is it that perhaps that, again, their poo is staying in their bottom a bit longer than it should, and that was the beginning of that child feeling uncomfortable about it, not keen to do it. And what happens, and the number of parents that have called us in tears and just saying this child just becomes like a demon around anything to do with the poo. And it's not that they're a naughty child, it's not their usual personality, but this fear that they have and this just unpleasant feeling can really, really turn them into difficult children to deal with, because it's very hard to sort of rationalize with them. So for this family, I think it's a case of reading what we've got on the ERIC website about it. We've got some really good podcasts now as well, where I think we did one, Bethan, didn't we, about children who'll only poo in a nappy. So I would really recommend, I know, being a parent is tiring, particularly when this is happening, but if you are able to just spend a bit of time listening to those things, and then again, call our helpline if you need help with it. But I think it's about working out, actually, is this that he or she have got a problem, letting go of their wee and poo, and then try and then manage it from there.
Okay, next question. When should you make the transition from potty to toilet? I assume that means like the grown-ups toilet.
That's a good one. Yeah, there's no set time. I think it's completely, some kids go straight to the toilet, don't they, rather than the potty. I think and again, it sort of depends on how your house is set up and the choices you make as a parent. So some people, it's all about the potty or it's all about the toilet. What I've said in previous sessions is, in children as being smaller than adults, but toilets designed for adults, just be really conscious that you need to perhaps think about one of those toilet inners, and definitely using a footstool, because they can be quite high to get up onto, and then the footstool will really help the child to get into a good squat position, and the inner seat will help them to feel comfortable. And what we want is children feeling relaxed and comfortable on the toilet. So take the example of that child that has become worried and upset about poo. The thing that will help them is to try and make everything about the toilet comfortable, fun, relaxing. So when the parent was saying, how can I get them to engage with nappy changing times, I imagine, kind of kicking and screaming and not wanting to do it, but you absolutely have to get that child clean and dry, don't you? It is about trying to tap into what that child likes doing, in terms of reward, and also acknowledging, that they are an independent little person now. And although it adds to what is the tiring nature of parenting, if you can just get them to feel motivated by what they can do, and really the big part of this is trying to get children to engage with the fact that the wee and poo is theirs. You're no longer there to deal with it or wrap it up in a nappy and chuck it away. They have to get engaged and involved with their body. And I know I'm saying all this and it might seem like, I'm making it out to be easy. I know it's not, but I think it is trying to dig deep, be patient about it, but just know that these behaviours around the toilet usually come from this place of fear around the poo usually. Okay.
I think that partially answers another question we've had about a little boy refusing to sit on the potty, even though he knows he needs to go. And the parent was asking about how to try and get that little boy sitting back on the potty without the meltdowns. But
it's very, meltdowns. Yeah, it's very tricky, isn't it? Because you can't forcibly restrain a child, get them on, sit them down there. But I think it's like anything in life. I may have given this analogy before, but what I used to say on the helpline is, when you go out in the car with a toddler, they have to learn right from, really tiny, that they have a seatbelt on, don't they? That, it is a completely non-negotiable part of going on a car journey to keep them safe. And I, again, everybody's going to think my children sound like complete horrors, but I had my daughter would do that whole banana bend. She'd try and unclip it. She'd be crawling out. I ended up speaking to kind of like a road safety charity to find out what I could do about that. And in the end, she got through it. It was a phase. It was her just being incredibly headstrong, and she's still like that now at 7. But I think it is about being in control of it and just making it, again, not asking the child, do you need to go? I've just seen a brilliant thing on Instagram. Somebody's put some tips about children, just saying to them, it is potty time now, rather than making it a question. So I'll do a sneaky screen grab of that and send it to you, because it made me really think, wow, yeah, it's so true. And it all ties back to, how we kind of communicate with them, really, doesn't it, I think? But yeah, so for that little boy, I think, again, it goes back to, well, what would make it fun? Would it be that he decorated it with, I don't know, dinosaurs or princesses or whatever it is he's into? Or would it be that you have a little song that you put on your phone, or a timer to tell him? It's just trying to find something that breaks through that wall of resistance. You'll get there, because you don't see 18-year-olds marching around Tesco saying, I don't want to go to the loo, do you? So there is hope there.
Okay, we've got time for one last question here. My son is constipated and it's
unstable.
Can you
hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me, Alina?
Yeah, I can.
Yes,
I had a message flash up about my internet connection, but I can hear you.
We're back. Okay, my son is constipated and taking Movicol as a laxative. We're trying to increase the amount he drinks so that he poos more often, and we can try to remove the laxative. Is it a bad idea to try to encourage nighttime dryness while he is constipated? He has been constipated for over 6 months. Oh.
Well, it's not a bad idea to try and encourage it, because I think you can.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, there's a slight time delay, but I'll be quiet and let you talk.
Oh, okay. I've got to remember what I was saying. About nighttime, because all the same principles that will help him overcome the constipation help for bedwetting as well, nighttime dryness. Things like getting the bladder to be regularly filled and emptied, that I get filled up and I get emptied on a regular basis, and I don't get ignored as well. That's another key thing for little children. If they're always ignoring their full bladder signal, well, their poor old bladder doesn't stand a chance at night either, because they're just not used to listening out to it. So the drinking that you're doing with him, great to make sure that included in his fluid allowance. The drinking is going to help his bladder and his bowel. The toilet routine is going to help both his bladder and his bowel. The stopping drinks before bedtime, all those different things. So I think, but just bear in mind what I said about when a child's been fecally impacted, their poor old bladder takes a bit of a bashing, really, because of where they are located in the body. If you imagine you've got poo that's staying there, it's got harder and it's got bigger than it should, and it can bump into the bladder and make it behave in a bit of a twitchy way. So yeah, I wouldn't stress about it too much in terms of the nighttime dryness, but yeah, don't think, we can only do this in isolation, it's not going to be helping the nighttime dryness, because it all will, absolutely. And sitting down wheeze for him, really make sure that nearly all of his wheeze that he's going to do is sitting down ones. Good for getting the poo out, great for emptying his bladder.
Okay, we have just had one last question, in which I do want to put to you. Is parent fear of toilet training a thing? I feel deep down I am putting off toilet training my 3-year-old because I am nervous, having suffered PNA and anxiety myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, so I'm really sorry to hear that you feel like that, and that's been your experience. I think that's the daunting thing about having kids, isn't it? They're these little things that we get, that then we've got our own lives and our own feelings about things. But I would really urge you, drop me an email, and we're not experts in parenting, we're not experts in behaviour, but what we are is really good listeners, really good organisations as well. So if you feel comfortable, do either call the helpline. It's completely anonymous, it's a free phone number, but it can get very, very busy to get through to, or just drop me an email, and I can see what we can do to help you with that. But please don't feel that because you haven't started yet and you sort of missed the boat on it. It's got to be, what I've tried to say all the way along is, this is a journey that it's a brilliant stage of a child's life, but it's blooming stressful and hard work. So, well done to all of you for getting going with it. I feel quite emotional, really, because it's kind of, you've given up your time to sit and listen to us talking about it, which is brilliant. And as you can see, we're completely passionate about it. But I can't remember where I was going with that. But yeah, please do send me an email.
Okay, thanks, Alina. We'll just wrap up now before we sign off and say goodbye. So, as Alina said in the beginning, these events we've done are recorded and will be on YouTube for a while. We'll be sending out a survey to everybody who's signed up to attend to get your feedback about how this has gone, because this is the first time we've done this. So we'd love to hear what you thought, but also, you know, maybe what we could change or make better if we do this kind of thing again in future. I'm going to do the charity bit now, I'm afraid, and remind everybody that Eric, who we work for, the Bowel and Bladder Charity, is reliant on voluntary donations really to keep all of our services is working. And we have got a text to donate service available. So if you were in any way minded to text to donate to help any of our family services, our helpline, having attended this webinar, we'd be chuffed to bits if you wanted to make a donation that way. No pressure, absolutely. I'm just going to share a screen with you that has the details of that number, and I hope I get this right. Bear with me. Here we go. Can everybody see that? I hope so. So yeah, if you valued this webinar series and you'd like to consider making a donation, please text potty plus the amount, e.g. potty 1 or potty 5, to 785, and that will donate that amount of money to our charitable services. You'll get charged for the standard rate of message call, and you can opt to donate up to £20. We're not collecting any marketing data or that, so anything like that, so you won't get pestered by us afterwards. It's a one-off option to donate. So, well, I just wanted to share that with you, but I shall come back in to see you now, because I would also like to do a in-session quick poll with you all just to get a bit of instant feedback. So I'm going to run this poll now. You'll see 3 questions come up on your screen. Be very grateful if you could ping your answers onto that. That would be brilliant. Alina, is there anything we've forgotten to say or anything we want to say before we sign off?
I've just noticed that somebody else has asked a question about how long the videos will be available on YouTube. I know what we said is that the clips of us talking, the pre-recorded bits, will be there forever, won't they? But I think we were talking about the whole session having a limited time. I think we probably just need to work out what we're going to do about that, Bethan, don't we?
Yeah. I think once we've done a bit of an assessment of how what your feedback is telling us, then we'll have a better idea. But they will be there for the next few weeks at least. So you've got plenty of time to watch those.
Yeah, and pass on to any friends and family that could do with it as well. Because
and just to help better. Advertise our podcast as well. If you're less of a watcher and more of a listener, do check out our podcast at www.eric.org.uk/podcast. And there's a couple of episodes on there about pooing in the nappy and starting at nursery and things like that, which might be of interest to you. So I think everybody has answered that poll. That looks like they're going to. So I'm going to end that now. Thank you very much. Alina, any last thoughts?
No.
Oh, somebody's just asked if you can give gift aid on that text to donate. Yes, I think you can. You get prompted to ask if you want to do gift aid. Thank you very much.
That's clever. No, just to say how much I've enjoyed it. It's been fun, hasn't it, Bethan? It's taught us a lot about Zoom. And it's been a really good experience. We hope you've all enjoyed it, and it'd be great to think that this is something that Eric can carry on doing.
Keep following us on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram if you haven't already, and get in touch. Let us know how things have gone. If you've had a great success and you feel like this has given you the sort of the confidence that you needed, we'd love to hear those kind of success stories.
One last thing, if anybody's out there thinking, I like the sound of this charity, we appreciate it's quite a quirky one, and we are very small. If you've got any skills that you'd like to think about volunteering for us, of course times are different now. We've got quite a few volunteers that just do stuff from their own homes. We're always looking for help with things like graphic design and Facebook, and just again, get in touch if you fancy, you listen to some podcasts and you've got a particular you know, you've all got worlds outside potty training. Perhaps you know a lot about child development or something like that, and you'd like to do a podcast with us on that. That would be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, we're always open to ideas. That's kind of the richness of Eric, really, isn't it? That we love hearing from our community on.
We've just had a comment into us saying that they're going to pass on information about us to others. Please do talk about us to other parents, because sometimes these toileting problems are things that people are a bit shy about talking out loud, especially as your child gets a bit older and it's not kind of considered a baby or a toddler issue anymore, you know. But we are here to help, and we will talk about anything. No shame here, no embarrassment.
That's a really good point. When you say talk to other parents, talk to other healthcare professionals that you might come into contact with. We wish that all GPs knew about Eric and shared our resources. Obviously, poor GPs, well, the NHS are under an awful lot of pressure, but just knowing about our website and the resources is handy to be able to pass on, and health visitors as well. And we're not really sure at the moment what health visitors are able to do about 2-year checks, but we're hopefully going to start working with the Institute of Health Visitors with our Let's Go Potty campaign. So to try and kind of roll out this whole idea of being potty training champions, that once you've got some of this knowledge, you just pass it on and then help the next person. Okay,
great. Well, we must. We could talk all day about this.
Like an Oscar acceptance speech, isn't it? And a bit more.
Cut the mics. Cut the mics. Yeah. Okay. Thank you once again. And you'll get an email from us very shortly with those final signposting links to YouTube, and a link to a final feedback survey. So thanks and goodbye from me.
Goodbye. Yeah.
All right. Bye.